Check off who's here. Noel and Albert.
Who isn't here? Right class here?
Yeah. We're going to start. It's 5 o'clock or a couple of minutes past. We want to welcome you here and say thanks for coming. My name's Larry Jones. I have recently came on board Walton County as Special Projects Coordinator. And someone asked me the other day, what special projects do you have? And I said, well, there's 5 of them. There's Commissioner Commander, Commissioner Meadows, and said some are more special than others. But
We covered that one good.
that's right. But Restore Act and working with the whole BP episode is one of the projects I've been assigned. So we're going to start on that tonight. I want to thank the committee members for being here. There's a list here that I'm going to pass around. If you would just check your name off if you're here and pass it back up to Melinda Wickham, who is going to be our recording secretary for the evening. And as we get started, Commissioner Sarah Commander, who represents the county on a number of BP and oil spill initiatives, is going to say a few words, and then we'll look at a PowerPoint that hopefully helps us get this committee started and moving.
I do want to thank you for coming tonight, all of you, and for volunteering to be on the.
Yeah.
Could I get you over there, because you're kind of hiding on this side?
That's my best signs over there. What do you
And while she's doing that, we want to recognize Commissioner Meadows. Thank her for being here as well. And some of her staff.
District 5. I am the county's representative on the Restore Act Consortium. I'm also on the executive board of the Gulf Coast Consortium and on the committee of the 8 disproportional counties. We have such a unique opportunity. There's so many facets of the oil spill and money that's coming in. It's people that lost their wages have been able to file, and the TDC, for example, for loss. So there are a whole lot of pots, but the Restore Act in particular is special. It is almost a gift to us of money that we can use to restore our county. Restore it in a number of ways. Our environment, our economic diversity, jobs, tourism, and as Larry goes through the PowerPoint, you will see that there are parameters within how we can and can't spend that money. But Florida is unique because all the other states, the states are given the money. Florida, the federal government said we're going to give it to the 23 counties. And 75% of that would go to the disproportionate counties, which is the 8 counties up here in the Panhandle. And the rest will be shared from the counties all the way down to Key West. So we have a unique opportunity that we get to decide what we want to do with our local pot of money. I'm sure y'all are aware last week there was some jockeying in the Senate, in the state Senate. Senator Gates and I've forgotten the other senator that wanted to originally to take the money and use it as a council, but then they had an amendment to the amendment, and right now they're just going to take the money that the state gets and give it to a county and to a council and let 5 citizens decide over a long period of time how that money is to be spent. It hasn't gone to the House yet, so we're still kind of holding our breath to see that it doesn't change once it gets to the House. But y'all are so fortunate. First of all, you got a really tough job. But you're all up to the challenge. I know every one of you are because your heart's in the right place. And that we can do long-term investments, if you want to say, that will benefit this county long after everybody in this room has passed on. So I personally, I want to thank you for your serving. And this isn't just a 6 months or a year. I mean, we may not see any of this money for 2 or 3 years. Who knows? Hope not. We should see within the next couple of months the money coming down from Transocean because they have already settled. But we may not see the BP restore money for a while. But we can go ahead and plan for the future, and that's part of what your job is. So I just want to thank you, and I'm sure on behalf of Ms. Meadows and all the other commissioners, thank you for your service. And we're here for you anytime you need us. Thank you.
As we begin, why don't we start
There
here?
you need to get on where I am. So you need to turn your. You want me to wear the power? Okay.
as we start, and I will trip and fall on this, so I don't want start with Mike Flint. Just introduce yourself to the rest of the group on the committee.
I'm Mike Flint. I'm a resident in Miramar Beach. I've been in the area since '97 and involved in environmental activities primarily, and that's the position I hold on the committee.
I'm John Heiser. Live in Seagrove Beach. Been coming there since about '92. Relocated up here permanently in about '97, I believe. Worked with the Howard Group, with Silver Sands and Grand Boulevard, among other things that we did. So.
I'm Jim Pauls. Been here since '94. Been involved in a lot of different aspects of the county and sat on both sides of the table. And looking forward to seeing some good things come out of this committee.
I'm Ed Gardner. I'm with Power South Energy. I've been with here. I've worked there 3 years in South Walton. But I was really electric, supplies, electricity to Chelco, and we run cooperatives throughout the Panhandle. I'm an economic developer, though, and I have a territory of 10 counties in the Panhandle. I live here in South Walton.
Yeah, I'm George Ather. I'm an architect. I moved here in the fall of '95 with Hurricane Opal.
Christmas Bill and environmental manager for the Walton County Health Department. Old school, been here pretty much all my life.
I'm Pat O'Brien Murphy. I'm a high school teacher at South Walton High School. I currently teach AP Environmental Science. Been here since '92.
I'm Jennifer Steele. I'm the Executive Director of the Cultural Arts Alliance of Walton County. I've been a part of the area my whole life, but I've lived here permanently for the 13 years.
Sarah Bowers, City of Phoenix, Spring City Manager. Lived here pretty much all my life other than going off to school.
My name is Andrew Jackson, no kin to the president. And been coming to this area for 60 years. And I live in Seagrove, and I have made that my permanent home for the last 10 years. I represent the fishing industry in Walton County.
And we all like to fish.
Yes, we do.
I'm John McGee. I bought property here in 1975 and moved here in 1982, I believe it was. So I guess one of the longest transplants here. I own a couple of manufacturing companies here in Walton County that have absolutely nothing to do with tourism. We manufacture products sold worldwide. The reason I point that out because this is Walton County, not just tourism. And I'm looking forward to give my 2 cents.
So on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, we do appreciate your service. Over my tenure over the last several years, I had the opportunity to work with most of you, some of you more closely than others, but it's an exciting opportunity that we're all here working together for the betterment of our county. So we're going to talk about the Restore Act tonight, and one thing we want to make sure we understand is that Restore Act is one component of many pots of money, for lack of a better term, as a result of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. You've heard the term NERDA, and Commissioner Commander spoke of Transocean, and a lot of things that are going on. Restore Act is specific to the one component of that, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. But we've heard the term Restore. For those that may have not heard what that's an acronym for, it's the Resources and Ecosystems Sustainability, Tourist Opportunities, and Revised Economies of the Gulf Coast States Act of 2011. If you've not taken about 3 days to read it, I would encourage you to do that. Google it, find you a copy on the internet. We would have printed them, but it would have taken a couple of trucks to bring the reams of paper. But when you get a chance, Google it and find a good copy of it and familiarize yourself with it. Well, when I just get one, I don't know how to go back, so we're going to start here. But basically, well, I can read it here. The Restore Act are the fines that will be generated as a result of the responsible parties violating the Clean Water Act. So this money is punitive. It's not for damages. Walton County has a lawsuit against BP to recover the actual damages. The funds that we're talking about through the Restore are those funds that the federal government is going to say to those responsible parties of the Deepwater Horizon disaster that because you violated the Clean Water Act, this is your penalty. We've heard numbers from $1 billion or $2 to $20 billion. Have no idea what that number will actually be when it's finalized. The purpose of the Act, as stated in the Act itself, is to restore the natural resources, ecosystems, fisheries, marine and wildlife habitats, beaches, and coastal wetlands of the Gulf Coast states, to create jobs and revive the economic health of the communities adversely affected by the explosion on and the sinking of the mobile offshore drilling unit Deepwater Horizon, and for other purposes. Now, the three most interesting words in all of that to me is for other purposes. They left themselves an out to determine what other purposes may be. The confidence level in the federal government is probably not at its all-time high, so whatever those other purposes may be, we're soon to find out. So tonight we're here as the Local Restore Act Committee. This is our organizational meeting. It's our first meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to transform this committee from a conceptual committee to one that is functional. Moving forward, that function may change, but we felt like it was time we got up and running, we got together, and we understood what our charge was and the challenges that lie ahead of us. The Restore Act legislation directs the state of Florida's funding to coastal political subdivision that is defined in the Act as any local political jurisdiction that is immediately below the state level of government with a coastline that is contiguous with any portion of the United States Gulf of Mexico. In Florida, that includes 23 counties, starting with Escambia and whichever one the last one is down the state of Florida. Monroe, maybe? Is it Monroe? Yeah. And we find that a bit interesting because when the oil spill was going on up here, those counties were saying, don't go up there, come down here. We don't have any oil. But all of a sudden, when it's time for money to flow, they said, oh, we got problems too. So Walton County is one of those such political subdivisions. And this committee is designed to assist in the distribution of the funds that are collected through the Restore Act and those fines. Each county will establish a local Restore Act committee to do three things: solicit, evaluate, and rank projects for consideration by the local governing body. In this instance, it's the Board of County Commissioners. Caution. And I thought Mark Davis was going to be here, our county attorney, but apparently he's not, so I'm going to do the best I can with this. As a member of this committee, you're governed by the standards of code and conduct in Florida Statute 112. You're subject to Florida sunshine laws. You're subject to Florida public record laws, and you're also prohibited from receiving any personal gain by serving on this committee. In a nutshell, and again, I'm not an attorney, but I've been through some of this, and it's not fun when you get on the other side of it. Don't talk to anybody about anything unless you're in this room and it's been a duly noticed meeting. That's the simple answer. If you send emails from your private email account regarding Restore Act, it's going to be a public record. Sunshine Law says you don't discuss anything amongst yourselves that you may have need to vote on here. Code of Conduct, I just encourage you to go to Chapter 112 and read that and govern yourself accordingly. To that end, you guys are going to be a popular group of people. When you're talking about the sizable sums of money that may be available through this and the means and methods of getting to that money, you're going to be an integral part of that. Folks are going to see you at the grocery store. They're going to see you in church. They're going to see you wherever you may be and say, hey, John, can I talk to you about something? My suggestion is follow the procedures, come to the meetings, and that's when we can discuss it.
Larry, I'm Sure, all of us have been contacted by organizations. I know I have. But as an elected official for Mosquito Control,
Right.
I'm very, very much aware of the sunshine laws. I think it would behoove us to establish our own email addresses in relationship to this. Not that we need to do it, but I mean, have that much headache, but for Restore Act, because in my case, they were sending it to my business one, and if it got subpoenaed, there's just too much.
That's exactly right.
So my first suggestion to the organization as we organize is that we do come up with a rule that we set up separate email accounts for this organization, so as not to jeopardize.
Okay. And quite frankly, if you want to be safe, don't email one another. I mean, you know, just, and it's tough.
Can we talk to you about things?
Yes, sir.
Non-board members, we can actually, I mean, like you for technical
Right.
issues, we can speak with you.
Right.
It's not a good idea to talk to non-board members about projects, although if they tell us about a project, do we tell them we can't talk to me or what?
Well, I don't want to say you can't talk to me, because that would say that I know the great all. My position is the less you have outside of this meeting, the less grief you're exposing yourself to.
I think the easiest way if someone contacts you is, obviously they have a right to, just say, tell me which one does that say, but I cannot talk about it because I may have to vote on that issue.
Well, and here's another thing that you can get into if you're not careful is, hey Ed, I was talking to John the other day, and John told me so and so and so, and want to see what you think about that. That's time to click, you know. So it's an interesting process, and it's all there for a reason. So, you know, govern yourself accordingly. You know, look at these statutes and laws and make the best decisions that you need to make.
Larry, I may be operating under a misconception, but my thought was that amongst the members of this committee, we cannot have any contact concerning the business of the committee because we will eventually be voting on actions or whatever. However, outside that, we can gather information, and there are going to be people who provide us information. That's what I understood. It's not talk to anybody, but not talk to anyone on this committee.
Well, and technically you're right, okay? My not talk to anybody is a broad protection, but that's going to be very difficult. So when you do have those conversations, you know, just be very careful.
You bet.
So, go ahead.
One other thing. John McGee had a great idea about separate email accounts, and I wonder if perhaps down the road you could check to see if we could get a county email account and just keep Restore Act there only and nothing on our private.
Melinda, could you make us a note of that? And we'll check that out.
Because under the sunshine law, it has to be archived.
Exactly.
Correct.
And I don't think anybody in this room has that ability to do that.
Correct. And I know we will get you the sunshine law manuals. And between reading it and reading the act itself, you know, you can spend 3 or 4 real nice weekends going, what? The role of the committee. What are you here to do? And what place do you play in this whole process? You're to hold public meetings, provide regular status reports to the Board of County Commissioners, establish an application and application process for project consideration, solicit and accept all applications for projects that comply with the Restore Act eligibility, determine project eligibility and compliance, review, score, and rank projects, presenting the ranked project list to the Board of County Commissioners for the final project approval and fund allocation is by the Board of County Commissioners. Now, just a few thoughts, you know, when we talk about this. We're not real sure what a project is. We don't know what a project looks like. We don't know to what level a project has to come here to be determined. There's, and you'll see, I'll tell you later on in this thing that this is a fluid process and there's many, many moving parts. We're simply trying to get ahead of the game. And if somebody walked in today and said, okay, I want to submit a project, what do I do? The answer is we don't know. So some of that we've got to develop ourselves through the application and the application process. But even there, to what detail does a project need to be before it can be considered? That's probably some decisions we're going to have to make or you as a committee will have to make, because there's very, very little direction and guidance on how to get those projects in the pipeline. We hear people say, well, we got shovel-ready projects. Okay, who paid for the engineering? Who paid for the design? Who paid for all the legwork to get it to where it's shovel-ready? I think what you're going to see is that a lot of people are going to come and want county assistance in those things. And keep in mind, projects that will come to you can be sponsored by the county, by the city of Defuniak, by any local government entity, or by any private individual, group, or organization. So it's probably going to be those private groups and organizations that think this is a great project for the county to work on. So a lot of those things are going to have to be vetted out as we move forward. Eligible projects. The Act itself specifically lists out the categories of projects that can be funded through the Restore Act. And I'm not going to read those because they're pretty broad, but the high points are natural resources, mitigation to fish, some federally approved programs, workforce development and job creation. Again, very broad. Some of that we're going to have to narrow down. Improvement state park, infrastructure projects, coastal flood protection, planning assistance, promotion of tourism, promotion and consumption of seafood harvested in the Gulf region. So these categories are way out here. Part of what this committee is going to have to do is make some determinations of what is a workforce development project. And as you create your application and application process, these components are going to be very important, so that when someone brings an application for a project, that you can clearly delineate which category or cross categories, they may fit in more than one, they fit into. We're asking the Board of County Commissioners at their May 14th meeting to assign some values to each of these projects that will give some guidance as to what percentage of the total pot of money they would like to see allocated to these various categories. I'm going to suggest to them that those be guidelines, that as projects come in, we look at them, and if you guys find a project that you think is a grand slam, but it uses up all the money in this category and needs some from another category, that you have the latitude to go back to the board and say, hey, please, hear us on this and reconsider your the amounts you have funded. That idea is simply to broaden the spectrum of projects that we bring forward for consideration, so that we can get as many of these categories covered as possible. Now, the board may say, for instance, the one that talks about funding state parks. They may say the state's getting a pot of money, let them pay for the state park. So they may ask you not to consider any projects that would fund a state park. But we'll have that to you sometime in the next 30 days, probably the next time we meet. The ranking criteria and considerations. As projects come forward and it's been determined that they fit into one of those categories, these are the criteria that you'll use to evaluate those projects. What's the area of impact? Is it very localized? Is it countywide? Some of them may be of a regional nature, and there's other pots of money we're working on, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But what's the economic benefit? What's the environmental benefit? Does it have the ability to leverage other funding, such as grants? What are the long-term implications? Quite frankly, I think this is one of the most important ones. You can look at a great project that looks wonderful, but if it's going to cost you $3 million a year for the next 30 years and there's no funding source, it doesn't look quite as attractive. But there are those that you can put in today that adds value as they move forward. So is it shovel ready? Is it a comprehensive plan project? Is it comprehensive plan compliant? Is it in your capital improvement plan? And how much funding is being requested? This too, we're asking the Board of County Commissioners to weigh, so that if they think that economic benefit is more important than the funding amount requested, when you consider those, projects and add this criteria to it, then economic benefit will have more value than whether it's how much is being requested. And we'll have that to you soon as well.
Larry, on the comprehensive plan and the capital improvement plan, will you provide us copies of those?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Before funding a project, the BCC and Board of County Commissioners have to do some things. They have to certify that the project is designed to restore the and protect. I think the needs to come out of there. And protect the natural resources, ecosystems, fisheries, marine wildlife, and so on. Yeah. The Board of County Commissioners has to certify to the U.S. Treasury that it meets these requirements. It does the things you told us that we had to do. That it carries out one or more of the eligible activities. That it was selected with meaningful public input. Very important. As you read the act, you'll see the words transparency, public input in it time and time again. They're very serious that these projects are to be vetted publicly and that the public has the right and the opportunity to address them and you guys as you consider the projects.
I hate to be the one asking questions, but I'm going to do it right now. The way this is worded, if anybody, to include myself, I read it, it's telling me that, okay, whatever we do is going to only take care of, and I mean it's in a nice way, the south end of the county, okay, which I'm a resident, so don't get mad about that. But part of it is economic growth and how does it impact the citizens of Walton County. And I don't think it really identifies the fact of economic growth, long range whatsoever for Definiak Springs, Freeport, or Paxton, who should have the opportunity to participate in this. Because it kind of narrows, the wording narrows you down to one part of the county.
Okay, but when it says about economy of the Gulf Coast, and when it talks about the Gulf Coast, it talks about counties.
All right.
It doesn't say within X miles of the shoreline. So everything that it refers to as coastal counties, I haven't read anything in, if y'all read it, you know, there's nothing that says you divide your county up.
As long as we understand
Yes.
for the county, not just the coastal area.
Very good point.
Thank you.
And the last one there says agree to U.S. Treasury audit requirements. Now, my understanding of this whole process is if and when there's a fine and if and when it's determined how much money is going where, they're not going to stroke us a big fat check and send it down here and say, y'all enjoy it. We got to work through projects, we got to work through the process, and we've got to say to the U.S. Treasury at this point, and that may change, this is why we think we need some of our money, or some of the money that's been awarded to us. But in that process, they're saying to us, okay, good, but we're going to come audit you. You know, and if you said it was going to do this and it don't do that, we're taking your money back from you. So, and look, there's plenty more to come on this stuff. So this is not the say-all on what's going to happen here. Where's the money coming from? Okay, the Restore Act itself sends 80% of all administrative and civil penalties by responsible parties, and it's almost to say responsible parties and Deepwater Horizon just don't mix for me. I think it should be the irresponsible parties, together with any additional appropriations provided in law by the Gulf region. So 80% of it is coming to, first 20% goes to the federal government. So the 80% is divided up into 4 or really 5 pots. First pot is the local pot. That's the pot that you're dealing with. Second pot is the federal pot. That's the one that, and this is where some of it gets confusing. We can look at a project and say we don't think it fits into the local pot, and we can send it to the federal pot or the state pot, because that's where the 3 big pots of money are coming from. And then the 5% is for research and some other things to carry on the ecological benefits. This first pot, this is the pot we're dealing with. Gives monies to the states in equal amounts. And it's 35% of, and Billy McKee and I had a fun time the other day thinking it was 35% of 80%, which was 100%, and trying to come down with that number. But the funds can be, and it tells you what the funds can be used with, but it comes directly to the state, and in Florida, it's going to the 23 counties. And you'll hear the term as we move forward, the disproportionately affected counties, which are the 8 counties starting with Escambia along the coastline to Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, Walton, Bay, Gulf, Franklin, and Wakulla. 75% of those funds come to the 8 disproportionately affected counties. And just briefly, the second pot there, the green one you see, is the Gulf Coast Ecosystem Restoration Council. That's the federal money that they've got a mechanism in the act that the Secretary of the Interior, the President, and whoever they decide are the ones that decide how that money is distributed. The blue or purple next one goes to the state. So while the money we're talking about comes to the state through the pot 1, there's also pot 3, which is state money. Ma'am? The consortium pot. Consortium is another word you'll hear because there's language that says the state has to form a consortium to determine how those monies are applied. So, and then the last 2 are for Centers of Excellence and Restoration Science programs.
So, I guess to confirm, so 2 pots of money, it looks like, are separate. They're actually for ecological restoration. Or is that on the federal and then the state?
Yes. Now, what that looks like, no one knows. There are no guidelines, no parameters have been established that says these are how it's going to be broken out and this is how you apply for it and these are the criteria you have to meet in order to receive it. Walton County. If there's ever any money, and for every $1 billion in fines, if you do the math and take the 80% that goes to the county, to the states, and the 35% that goes into pot 1, and the 20% of pot 1, and the 75% that comes to the disproportionately affected counties, and Walton County gets 13.712% of that. For every $1 billion in fines, $5.7 million should filter down to Walton County. It should. We'll see when that happens.
Will that 5.76 million times whatever be allocated then in the various categories?
That'll be the money you're dealing with.
Or that'll be,
That'll be
money
Punitive damages.
that'll be money that this committee.
That's right. That's the only money this committee will deal with. So, if it's a $10 billion fine and Attorney General Holder up, figure out some way to keep it in Washington and it follows the flow of the act as it's set forth now. Again, if it's $10 billion, then we should see $57 million of it. And that's a lot of money. But when you think about folks that are wanting $3 million there and $8 million here and $5 million here, it goes real fast. So that's why we have to be very careful to make sure we fund the absolute best projects and that the timing is right, that the process of getting them through is timely, and their function on the backside is feasible. How much money is coming and when? We don't know the answer to either question. We don't know when we'll know the answer. And I'm sorry I don't have a better answer than that, but we're dealing with a lot of people that have a lot of interest in how to redirect some of this money, I'm sure. There already been some slugfest over, well, I thought the act said this, well, we're going to do it this, and so that's going to continue. And there's legal issues. If the federal government and BP and all those irresponsible parties don't come to terms on a settlement agreement, it could get strung out in court for years. So I think the idea that we're going to start funding projects in 3 months, probably just, take that on down the road a while. Some things that we'd ask you to keep in mind, that this process is fluid. As I said earlier, there are many moving parts. There are many unresolved issues and many unanswered questions. We felt it was time that we got together as a committee and at least became functional, and whatever functional looks like at this time, we're going to have to develop as we move forward. And we'll keep you abreast with changes as they come forward. Directives may change, that you serve in advisory capacity to the Board of County Commissioners, and they make the final decisions. So as we see things change, they may ask you to do something a little differently, certainly within the parameters of what you're set up to do, but the board in their capacity are the ones that will make the final decisions and make any awards for funding. They certainly appreciate your service. This is not a small undertaking. It's going to take some time, it's going to take some effort, and it's going to take some time away from your family eating dinner when the guy at the next table wants to tell you about a project. So, any other questions or thoughts or comments as we step out? Yes, sir.
I'm not sure. I understand the part about not speaking to one another or speaking to, I'm going to call them constituents, because I've already talked to fishermen all over the place. And so one person can't have all the ideas and all the answers.
Right.
So I've already had meetings from those kinds of people. Is that illegal?
No, sir.
For their input.
As long, and that you're correct. That's not illegal. But my only caution was that if they talk to you and they talk to John and they talk to Ed, then you can have some issues.
Well, they may do all
Well, they may do all of it. So I'm just saying, be careful. No, you talk to everybody out there you really want to. Commissioner?
One of the things that happens on that I find, because we're under the sunshine, we're under public records, is somebody will come to you and they'll talk to you and everything, and then they'll go tell people, well, Andrew said that I could do that. He said that was great, and we were going to get the money. And Andrew, you'll say, well, I never said that. So I have learned that people will come to you and they will tell you all kinds of things, and they will, and you just have to be real careful. Whatever notes you take are going to be public records.
Very good point. Anything anyone gives you relating to it.
Yeah, you're going to have to turn it in, and it's going to be public record, and people can request public records, and they can get anything. Let's say somebody came to you and said, I have a great plan and all that, and and you didn't say anything, but then they went out and told everybody, oh yeah, Andrew said that my project was definitely going to get funded. Right. And then it starts this firestorm, and then you get a call from someone saying, Andrew, did you, so-and-so said that you were going to, so what you learn is after a while, you really don't really want to talk to anybody. you really want them to come to you in a public forum and make a presentation so it's in the public record. And so that's kind of the warning. But yeah, you can talk to anybody you want, but it sometimes drags you into a quagmire.
Just on a lighter note of something the Commissioner just said, there was an elected official in Walton County a few years ago. He said, when I was running for office, he said, I thought everybody loved me. He said, everybody's, and I got elected. He said, I wasn't in office long. He said, I thought everybody hated me the way they were talking to me then. He said, but it didn't take me very long just to learn how to hate everybody. And then they didn't want to talk to me. So it's interesting. Yes, ma'am.
When people come to you, I've got this great project, John, I want to tell you about it. I think that maybe the best answer for y'all is to say, you know what, we have an application. Let me give you Larry Jones's telephone number, email, and you get an application from him and fill it out and send it in to us. That might take you off the...
Well, we do. Thank you, sir, because what we do with Mosquito Control.
Right.
Because, obviously we get phone calls, I want my house sprayed and stuff like that, and I go, man, I can appreciate that, but we have a formality you need to do. Here's the phone number you need to call, so it goes on record that you would like to say we're going to provide a service. Now, what I was going to say, unfortunately or fortunately, I've had to attend 9 sunshine law classes. Well, I've been elected, okay, once every year. You know how mosquito control is kind of tough. All right. You can get sued by you can get sued by a mosquito. You got to be careful. All right. So the key to it is that yes, we are going to receive emails from people for a project, and The best thing to do is make it available to all the other members. I received this email, boom. If you send an email to someone in relationship to this, or you're just talking, make sure everybody has it, to include the administrator.
And just as a general rule to that, you're going to get a lot of emails. You won't get in trouble for any email you receive. What you get in trouble for is the one you send back.
Responding.
Or where you send it to. So if somebody sends you an email, read it if you choose to, but be very careful who you forward it to.
You can't forward it.
No, sir.
You
send it to me.
Excuse me, what I meant by that, let me clarify something. If you were going to say something about it, everybody in the group needs to know what you said, not any one person. You know, electronic media is that way. In other words, to include the administrator, so I received this and here, boom. If you're going to, just say thank you for whatever. But that's how you get over that part.
And again, I'm certainly not an attorney, and I can't tell you all the peculiarities of it, but having been around it a long time, the more you can protect yourself against those things, because let's face it, there's a lot of folks going to be upset when their project doesn't get funded. And there's some folks out there that aren't real nice sometimes. But, and I understand your point. Yes, sir, they're going to want to talk to you. And you certainly can, but use your discretion that, we don't end up with an issue somewhere. Commissioner?
Question. I was thinking about this. Would it be better if people were directed to email the county? All emails go to the county, to a central point. That don't email, these people don't email these folks. Don't give them an email. Don't email Mike at his personal email or drop by his house. And that would save a lot.
Yeah. I certainly wouldn't publish or hand out my email address to folks that I'm dealing with Restore Act things on.
I agree.
But they'll show up at your place of business and they'll want an appointment. Yeah.
And by the way, they're my best friend, and that's what they are.
How do we handle someone's request that they ask us something and we need more information?
From those
folks?
Well, they're going to make an application.
Right.
I think it'd be we'll have to establish a process that says this is the minimum criteria that you've got to have in an application. And if you don't have it, then we're going to send it back to you and say you're deficient, thank you, in this part. And then determine whether you want to see it again. But there'll be plenty of that, Chris.
Is it a conflict if they're requesting information from my office?
To support their project?
Yes.
I'd ask Mark, because I don't know. I mean, the rule of thumb, if there's a question, it could be a conflict. So, don't hesitate to slow down. Mike, did you have something else? Okay. Anyone else?
Since this is new and there's supposed to be public input into this, is the county going to include a section on the county website that will contain all the supporting document, Restore Act, the slideshow that you showed here, as the meetings progress, have agendas, minutes, and all of that available to the public? Because I can see how complicated, in a sense, it is to get all the information straight.
Right.
And if it's complicated for you, it's going to be really complicated for people who just have a limited amount of time to understand the process and be part of it.
I think.
I'll put it forward and post it to.
Okay, we'll get our IT guys and folks to look into seeing what it'll take to get that done. Tim?
Just a comment based upon some of the research I was doing today. We're certainly not the first county to establish a restore committee.
Right.
And there are other counties that have already established restore committees with various criteria in terms of how they're going to evaluate projects. And I think it would be worthwhile for you to perhaps bring us what you think are the is the best model. I mean, there's no reason to have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And I'd certainly like to benefit from somebody else's work.
Okay, and we have some of those in hand.
The other thing I found in going to DEP, it was a bit confusing in terms of the Gulf oil restoration, in terms of what projects are fitting where. And when I got down to project forms and so on, restoration projects at DEP, there's 57 pages. And over $6 billion of projects have been submitted, of which there are perhaps 4 or 5 where the sponsor says Walton County. So I think there's going to be a great deal of pressure on trying to get what I think is going to be perhaps a diminishing amount of money. So the criteria process, in terms of if this money that we're dealing with as the Historic Committee here comes to the county and it's our money to deal with,
right.
You know, I have faith in being able to see that be a reasonable process.
Right.
And I guess it's the other monies that
Right.
are out there that you don't want to get a project that you would approve here that might be approved over there.
Might be. But we had some conversation with some folks at the state about that the other day. Is how do you know? And he said you don't. You know, that you don't want to use your state money, your local money, if you can fund it through the state.
Right.
And the state don't want to use money that they might get out of the federal pot.
Right.
But where do you roll the dice and say, well, let's send you over here? You know, we think you're a good project, but we think you're a better fit in the state. And it may be, but the state may say, no, we don't think so, and they come back and there's worlds of those scenarios that are going to have to be dealt through as we move forward. But I understand exactly what you're saying. You know, and there's perhaps the opportunity of submitting them to all the pots and seeing, you know, who comes through first.
Rank them, submit them to
Yeah.
everywhere, and then see what falls in.
Right. Commissioner?
What distinguishes between the pots of money too? So Consortium is really, they're charged with giving money out to regional projects that may affect 3 or 4 counties. You know, in the local, you know, it may just help Walton County or affect Walton County. It may just be, so that's how you can look at it. It's like it's, you know, it's gonna help Bay and McCullough and all that, and Walton and Okaloosa, then it might be a consortium project. But if it's specific to, like it's Choctahatchee Bay, monitoring or whatever, that would be local. But there will be some that will be hybrids, and you'll think, well, that's gonna vote. So I think that's something you can think about.
And to John's point, one of the projects that we're looking at for the Pot 2 or state money are some road improvements that span the North County, North Walton, North Okaloosa County that drain into the tributaries that end up in the Choctahatchee River or the Yellow River, that end up in the Bay, that end up in the Gulf. So there's ways to broaden that out so there is some impact throughout the county. I forgot to introduce Billy McKee, who's here. Billy's our environmental scientist for the county, and he knows a lot about a lot of things. And he's worked closely with us on some of this stuff. And Billy, anything you have seen that you'd like to add?
Not right now, other than that I believe that another process would be another process that there will be some overlap, and we're still trying to sort that out as well. I think some of the comments that I heard already as to what to target and who should go after them, and should they be the county pursuing those, or should it be a nonprofit with a partner of the county, or whatever. There's a lot of projects that are going to have to shake out into different categories and different responsible entities, I think.
Okay. So what are our next steps? I would suggest that you elect a chair and a vice chair of the committee, that we have a brief discussion about meeting dates and times, and we may not be ready to set firm dates on a regular basis, but we may want to look at the next time we want to get together. And things that you may talk about for the agenda for your next meeting is to begin developing the application and the process for applying, some minimal standards for what a complete application is, strategy to solicit projects, develop scoring criterion process, and any additional BCC direction. And I'm anticipating that we'll have some additional direction from the BCC considering the projects, the categories of projects, and the division of funding that they'd like to see in each of those, and the weight of scoring on the scoring criteria. So if the committee thinks it's appropriate to elect a chair or vice chair, we would take nominations, volunteers, or ever how you collectively deem to see that happen. Or we can wait till next time to do it.
I think it should go by seniority.
Hey, I don't know. So was there a nomination for Mr. Flint to be the chairman? Is there a second to that nomination? Several. Any other nominations? All in favor of Mike Flint being the chairman, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, motion carries. Mr. Chairman, if you would like to lead through a appointment of a vice chair.
Sure. Well, thank you for your confidence. No other nominations makes me wonder. This is going to be a long process. We have things to worry about with the Sunshine Law. We'll need to get ourselves studied up on that and not start off with a bad step. That being said, I would like to take nominations for a vice chair. Are there any volunteers to be vice chair? Oh boy. Who shall I volunteer then? John McGee has volunteered to be vice chair. Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor, say aye, please. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Congratulations, John, I think.
I'll let you know.
You bet. Now, Larry had some good information up here. Establishing meeting dates and times. Right now, we're in infancy, and I would recommend to the committee that we consider meeting in about 2 weeks' time after we've had a chance to look at the comprehensive plan, the capital improvement plan, the background law, and any other materials that were supplied, so that we can then start developing how we want to put together our applications and grade them. Does that seem reasonable?
Would that include then the Freeport and Feniac, cities of Freeport and Feniac, their plans as well?
It should.
Yes. That's interesting. It only says the county plans, but why not?
Well, I don't think it specifically says county. I think it says comprehensive plans, projects, and
capital improvement
plans. So I don't think it would be any of those jurisdictions that would fall within the county. That would be applicable to a project in the Feniac or in Freeport.
But don't we also need the information from the Board of County Commissioners concerning their rankings before we try to develop?
Well, the categories of projects, well, I don't see us getting to ranking for a month or two. A month or two.
I think to go along with Mike's suggestion, right now, A, we don't know how much money. B, we have no clue what is going to happen in our lifetime or not. And with that said, we're going to put together an idea and turn it forward. And this current commission right now may not be the commission that actually votes it in. So, based on all the information we're getting. So I think we're kind of, right now we just got to, make a list of what we think may affect the entire county to its benefit, and then start to hone it in ourselves.
And of course, take the guidance from the Board of County Commissioners.
Absolutely, all the way.
It's mostly creating a framework at this point that we can operate under and create these projects.
Exactly.
Recommendations for projects, and then as things evolve, that'll change too. He wants nuts. He wants us to get some restore that.
Yeah, don't much.
That's your recording secretary.
Upstaged by a squirrel.
He told me, he called Ed yesterday, and Ed said he could have some nuts.
10%.
I can't compete. Well, from what I've described, does that seem like a reasonable course of action? Any other thoughts about timing?
If I could just throw out on the table as far as meetings go, unfortunately, because of the demands of my companies, I flew in for this meeting and I'm flying out after we leave here. So my point being, because I committed myself, the best week it works for me when I'm generally 99% of the time in this county is the third week of every month. And it doesn't conflict with, BCC meetings and stuff like that. I'm just throwing that out because I do want to be part of this, but there's going to be other times I guarantee you I've got to be elsewhere because I have too many facilities. Maybe the wrong person for the community. In general.
In May, that would be the week of the 20th, I guess, is the
Right.
third full week. Is there a bad day?
20th and the 21st.
Well, first, what time first I think we need to establish, I think we need to establish first what time we're going to meet before it becomes a bad day. So.
That's a good idea, good idea. What do you think about evening meetings like this? It's at the end of the workday.
I
For the
prefer
committee.
morning would be best.
For mornings?
Yeah.
In the work,
Okay.
okay.
Better too, actually, but we could alternate perhaps and do a 4:30, 5 o'clock meeting on one session and then do a
Sure.
morning meeting on the next, kind of like the commission.
The only
Steer
day
clear of
it's
the
bad
commission.
for me is always on Tuesday morning. That's it. So, because I have a commission meeting that meeting. So.
Okay. The first meeting that we have, evening, 5 o'clock, same deal, same place. What
I'll have to
day?
make sure the room's available as soon as we decide on the exact day
Sure,
and time.
sure.
I can count it.
And there are other possibilities.
I
for
will
meeting
throw a
locations.
second out. If we meet between the hours of 7:30 and 4:30, the South Walton Mosquito Control has a nice conference room which is available at no cost. But after 4:30, they go into overtime. Can't do that. Well, it's not budgeted. I'm sorry.
And for what it's worth, the South Walton Utilities has a meeting room that we can use in the evenings.
There you go.
You just got to arrange it,
And you
and
can
it's,
also use the District 5, office.
District 5
for
office?
utilities.
so we will have a place. We'll have a place. Okay.
So we
Which-
landed on the day during that week yet?
Say again?
We're still working on the day during
We're
the third
working
week?
on the day of the week of the 20th of May. Personally, Wednesday and Friday look good.
I make a motion Wednesday.
Okay, Wednesday, the 22nd at 5 o'clock. You'll be notified later of the location that we finally decide on, but we'll try to get in this room, okay? And then one of the others if we have to, but you will be notified, and I'm sure the meeting will be published, public notice. Okay. I'm sorry? Will do.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask this question, you just said a good word. Who is responsible to make sure that everything is properly published in the paper? Do we have a liaison? Pardon me, you will be in? Okay.
Larry will make sure our PIO
All right.
is.
And I think the chain of communication would be from the meetings through the president to the special projects coordinator and take care of the details through the county offices. Okay? Okay, Jackie.
I think meetings during the day are going to limit the amount of public.
I agree, and this time of day is probably ideal. Maybe 6 o'clock might be a little bit better for those who work up through 5, but I don't particularly like evening meetings, but I understand what you're saying, and I think it's important that we do get the public involved, because the public's going to be involved. You know, we might as well make it easy and get everything up front. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
You have a fairly large committee that could easily be some subcommittees created to take particular portions of the things you're moving forward to bring back to the bigger meeting. So there may be opportunity to not have that great big meeting, but have some of those subcommittees do some of the grunt or leg work, so that when we do want to make those decisions, we can certainly do it at a more convenient time. So just a thought.
Excellent idea, and it occurs to me that when we start working on the application, when you have more than 3 people working on something, you don't get anything done. So a subcommittee working on the application, working in a workshop to come up with a suggestion to bring back to the full committee might be the way to go.
And to that end, that's not John calling Tim and Ed saying, hey, come over Tuesday night and we'll work on our
workshops.
Yeah.
And
Over a beer.
That's up to you guys. I mean, as long as it's noticed.
Exactly, as long as it's noticed.
And Larry, is it a 2-week notice ahead of time? Is that what the requirement is?
I think it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks, though.
I believe it is
That's
2.
something
I
to
think the
think
statute
about.
says reasonable, but I think we typically use 2 weeks. And by using the generic paper, it's kind of limited is what you can do. Excuse me.
I want to see your pretty face.
I hear your voice, but I don't see it.
Okay, well, we're organized. We have our first meeting date, and after the next meeting, we can talk about frequency of meetings. It may be a month for the next meeting after that. It all depends. Maybe have subcommittees looking at the various parts of our responsibilities to meet within 2 weeks and then come back at the end of a month with the full committee. Reasonable? We'll start off that way anyway, okay? I've run out of things to say. Are there any other ideas or items of business that we need to discuss this afternoon?
The county will make sure that we receive information in reference to the Board of County Commissioners meeting and how they're ranking before we ever meet on the 22nd.
Assuming they take action, it's going to be requested in the May 14th meeting.
And I've made an assumption that any information that comes up through the county process, or the board or administration or anyone else, will be emailed or somehow transmitted to the members, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And this is going to be a learning process. So we're going to take our time to get it done right. If I could make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, that you ask the committee to take action to allow you to establish an agenda for the next meeting.
Excellent idea. Sure.
Make a motion that the chairman has the ability to establish an agenda for the next upcoming meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, John. And thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Okay, as I said, I've run out of things to say. We've got the agenda concept for the future. Any public input or questions for the group before we adjourn?
I make a motion for us to adjourn.
Here, a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
It sounds like it.